Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 10, The Lord's Return to Jagannath Puri. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had many talks with King Prataparudra. When Maharaj Prataparudra requested the Bhattacharya to arrange an interview with the Lord, the Bhattacharya assured him that he would try to do so as soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from South India. When the Lord returned to Jagannath Puri from his South Indian tour, he lived at the home of Kasi Misra. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya introduced many Vaishnavas to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after his return. The father of Ramananda Roy, Bhavananda Roy, offered another son named Vaninath Pattanayaka for the Lord's service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed his associates about the pollution of Krishnadas brought about by the association with the Bhattadharis, and thus the Lord proposed to give him leave. Nityananda Prabhu sent Krishnadas to Bengal to inform the Navadvip devotees about the Lord's return to Jagannath Puri. All the devotees of Navadvip thus began arranging to come to Jagannath Puri. At this time, Paramananda Puri was at Navadvip, and immediately upon hearing news of the Lord's return, he started for Jagannath Puri, accompanied by a Brahmin named Kamalakanta Purushottama Bhattacharya, a resident of Navadvip, was educated at Varanasi. Did I do that wrong? He accepted the renounced order from Chaitanya Ananda, but he took the name of Swarup. Thus he arrived at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After the demise of Sri Ishwara Puri, his disciple Govinda, following his instructions, went to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Due to his relationship with Keshava Bharati, Brahmananda Bharati was also respectfully received by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he arrived at Jagannath Puri, he was advised to give up the deerskin clothing he wore. When Brahmananda understood Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu correctly, he accepted him as Krishna himself. However, when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya addressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, the Lord immediately protested. In the meantime, Kasishwar Goswami also came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this chapter, devotees from many different areas come to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they are exactly like many rivers that come from many places to finally flow into the sea. So we're going to pick out some key verses that demonstrate this chapter. One of the key verses from yesterday, and everyone should try to memorize, is Ekali Kale Ahinar Koinyadarm Vaishnava Shastra Ekahimar. In this Kali Yuga, there are no religious principles. Ekali Kale Nahi Ar Koinyadarm. Vaishnava Shastra. Just the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnav Shastra. And this is the sum and substance of everything. Very important verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So here, Vaishnavera ehoya ekaswabhava nischal tenojiva nahenahana swatantra ishwar. A Vaishnav travels to places of pilgrimage to purify them and reclaim fallen conditioned souls. This is one of the duties of a Vaishnav. Actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not a living entity, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Consequently, He is fully independent controller. Yet in His position as devotee, He carries out the activities of a devotee. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that because there are many permanent residents in holy places who do not precisely follow the rules and regulations governing living in the sacred place, exalted devotees have to go to these places to reclaim such persons. This is the business of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is unhappy to see others materially enmeshed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught these activities of a Vaishnava. Although he is the worshipable deity of all Vaishnavas, the complete and independent Supreme Personality of Godhead, He is Purna Sudha Nitya Mukta, completely uncontaminated and eternally liberated. He is Sanatan, for He has no beginning or end. So a devotee is Paradukkha Dukhi. His unhappiness is to see the unhappiness of others. And everyone is unhappy in this material world because they're not engaged in devotional activities. Real happiness is yayatma suprasidati. Srimad Bhagavatam explains, real happiness is happiness of the soul. Real happiness is chanting, dancing Hare Krishna. But people, unfortunately, Natevidu Swargagatim hi Vishnu Durashaya Ye Bahir Artamanina Antanya Tandaya Rupaniyamanas Tepisa Tantriyam Udam Nibadha. People don't know what the ultimate goal of life is. Therefore, they take shelter of so many isms, so many bogus things. Durashaya. Antan yatandaya upaniyamanas. Like a blind man leading another blind man. Or a lame man trying to help another lame man. We've had experience. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees, they are filled with so much compassion for the fallen conditioned souls that even at the risk of their own lives, Srimad Bhagavatam states, Tasyapi drastir ishasya kutos tasyaki latmana. Even at the risk of their own pain, their own suffering, their own lives, devotees tried to save them, just like our Srila Prabhupada. He was very happy and content as a 70-year-old man externally, living in Vrindavan, chanting, writing Bhagavad Gita, getting ready, writing Srimad Bhagavatam. But because his spiritual master had ordered him to go and preach in the West, and because he felt such great compassion, even at the age of 70, we didn't even know what that meant till now. Now most of us that are Prabhupada disciples are starting to figure out what it means to go travel around the world at 70. I'm not quite 70 yet, but on the cusp. He suffered 2 heart attacks on the Jaladuta. Who can imagine? Somebody has a heart attack, they go into ICU, and you don't see them for 4 weeks. There's tubes, there's medication, there's morphine. Srila Prabhupada had Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna's pastimes and the order of his spiritual master to spread Krishna consciousness to the Western English-speaking people. And at that very advanced age of 70, he arrived in Boston Harbor and later New York and introduced Krishna consciousness. He had to make some adjustments. He couldn't deliver exactly like it's done in India, because here in America things were different. Boys and girls intermingling, intertwined. And he realized that the boys and girls, they're both fallen. Boys are not very advanced. Girls are not that advanced. They're both in the same boat. Kalo Sudra Sambhava. So much so that I read one story that one of our god sisters, she was asked by Harisari to make a handkerchief for Srila Prabhupada. So she quickly sewed some cloth together and made a handkerchief, gave it to Harisari. Prabhupada put it in his pocket. He was meeting with the sannyasis, GBCs, big guns of ISKCON in the day, many years ago. Over, you can say, 50 years ago. And one sannyasi was claiming that he was finished with sex life and women and the attraction to women. And Srila Prabhupada pulled out the handkerchief and said, "My daughter has made this for me, and I like it very much. I always accept the service of my daughters." This was our Srila Prabhupada. Of course, another time, one sannyasi was, "Prabhupada, I'm really renounced. I have no desire for women. I'm totally above the modes of nature." It was a morning walk. Srila Prabhupada turned around, stopped his cane, said, "The only reason that you're not attracted to women is because none of them will have you." Prabhupada actually said that, and then turned around and kept walking on the morning walk. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he traveled to South India just to deliver the devotees. He visited all the temples, Mayavadi temples, Shiva temples, Durga temples, just to deliver everyone to chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. This is our business. Even though we condemn Mayavadis, we were all Mayavadis. Brigupati was a Mayavadi. I hate to admit it, I was a Mayavadi. I used to go to the Vedanta Center and have tea and crackers. Then they invited me to Hare Krishna. They had sabji, halava, puris, pakoras. I was like, game over. No competition here. Hands down, Hare Krishna wins. We all came from Mayavadi background. Be here now. I know my favorite book when I was in high school, in my last years, was Autobiography of a Yogi. I was so amazed by Paramahamsa Yogananda. It wasn't until later when I met the devotees in college and ultimately heard Srila Prabhupada speak in the House of Flowers, that I realized what a real saintly person is. And this is why the saintly person goes. Because people are easily duped into thinking any trickster, anybody who performs little mystical trick, he's my guru. Someone read my mind, they're my guru. Someone made, we said in last class, little piece of jewelry or deity made in India, oh, they're my guru, because they can perform miracles. But we met Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, I don't perform miracles. My only miracle is that I've made you devotees of Krishna. That is a miracle. Can you imagine the life we were leading? My parents left the country for a year when I was a junior in high school. And they thought, this guy's such a nice boy, just let him stay home alone. How much trouble can he cause? You have no idea the trouble we caused. The neighbors finally contacted them in Thailand and said, you got to get this guy hooked up somewhere. We were such debauchees for sense gratification. Nunam pramatak kurute vikarma. We're mad. We were mad after sense gratification. But Srila Prabhupada found us somehow or other and gave us the chanting of Hare Krishna and devotional service. That's a Vaishnav's business. Para dukkha dukhi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing by his example what is the position of a Vaishnava. So we'll go on to the next important verse. Jagannatha sevaka e mamapu janardan anavasare kare prabhura shriyanga sevan. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya first introduced Janardhan, saying, here is Janardhan, servant of Lord Jagannath. He renders service to the Lord when it is time to renovate his transcendental body. Purport. During Anavasara, after the Snana Yatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath is absent from the temple for 15 days so he can be renovated. This occurs annually. Janardhan, who is here being introduced to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was rendering this service at the time. The renovation of Lord Jagannath is also known as Navayovana, which indicates that the Jagannath deity is being fully restored to youth. Eba ami ihan ani karilana vidaya yahanicha yahanatma vanenahi ardaya. Now that I have brought him here, I'm asking him to leave. Now he can go wherever he likes. I am no longer responsible for him. Purport. Kala Krishnadas was influenced and allured by nomads or gypsies who enticed him with women. Maya is so strong that Kala Krishnadas left Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's company to join gypsy women. Even though a person may associate with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can be allured by Maya and leave the Lord's company due to his slight independence. Only one who is overwhelmed by Maya can be so unfortunate as to leave Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's company. Yet unless one is very conscientious, the influence of Maya can drag one away, even though he be the personal assistant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what to speak of others? The Bhattadharis used to increase their numbers by using women to allure outsiders. This is factual evidence showing that it is possible at any time to fall down from the Lord's association. One need only misuse his little independence. Once fallen and separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead's association, one becomes a candidate for suffering in the material world. Although rejected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kala Krishnadas was given another chance, as the following verses relate. So Kala Krishnadas was the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and somehow or other he came in contact with the Bhattadharis, who used to allure people to their camp with their women. Kala Krishnadas fell into this trap, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, upon returning to Jagannath Puri, wanted nothing to do. He saved Kala Krishnadas, but then he didn't want him to be in his association anymore. Kala Krishnadas was very sorry. Like a devotee, he was crying and feeling intense separation. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had kicked him out of his association due to his big fall down in the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the devotees headed by Nityananda Prabhu worked out a scheme. They went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, "Can we send someone to Bengal to tell Mother Sachi and all the Bengali Vaishnavas about your travels and your well-being now in Jagannath Puri, and invite them to come to Jagannath Puri?" And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You can do as you like. Yeah, if you like, send someone." So Lord Nityananda arranged Kala Krishnadas, even though he had been kicked out by the Lord, the devotees of the Lord are kinder than the Lord. They knew we need to keep this man. We can't throw him away. So they made a trick to send him to Bengal to instruct Mother Sachi and all the Vaishnavas there about the well-being of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we'll read on. Tanhara apana seva karaita na yuyaya guru agya avyachana hikari apaya. As such, it is not befitting that the Guru's servant should engage in my personal service. Yet my spiritual master has given this order. What shall I do? Purport. A Guru's servants or disciples are all God brothers to one another, and as such they should all respect one another as Prabhu or master. No one should disrespect his God brother. For this reason, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya what to do about Govinda. Govinda was the personal servant of Ishwar Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master, and now Ishwar Puri had ordered Govinda to become Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal servant. So what was to be done? This was the inquiry of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, placed before Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, an experienced friend. So, this part of the chapter describes that because Ishwar Puri had ordered him to become the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to accept. Govinda was such an advanced devotee that both Haridas Sr. and Haridas Jr., as well as Ramai and Nandai, used to stay with him. So the chapter ends 190 verses. Brahmananda Bharati, he had taken on the dress of a mendicant wearing tree bark. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was instructing him that you're a Vaishnav, you are a servant of Lord Krishna, therefore you should wear the dress of a sannyasi. This is very important because sometimes in our Krishna consciousness movement, people think that it doesn't matter what dress that we wear. But this pastime with Brahmananda Bharati shows that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very concerned that really I don't want you walking around in tree bark chanting Hare Krishna. Can you imagine if some of our devotees would dress up in tree bark and go on Harinam? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, bring him the dress of a sannyasi, a dhoti, and the top, and Tridanda. This is our Vaishnav culture. Part of culture means the dress. Even in the olden days, when they used to call devotees pajama people, we would wear dhotis from Cloth World. Nobody was really going to India, couldn't figure out the shipping. So devotees would go to Cloth World, dye the cloth yellow or orange or white, and wear a cloth dhoti from Cloth World. A cotton, I guess it was cotton, or polyester, it didn't matter. And the Matajis would wear yellow, white, pink, sari. But everyone was dressed in dhoti and sari. I remember one Mataji in the Seattle temple in 73, she would sew kurtas for us. I don't know how in 1973 we couldn't get things from India, but somehow our temple president couldn't figure it out. So she sewed us these kurtas from Cloth World that kind of looked like kurtas, but they were Cloth World sewn together, obviously weird kurtas. I think by the time the World's Fair came, we went to the Seattle World's Fair. Savas Prabhu was there, Naikama Prabhu was there. Many of you, I think. And we were distributing books, and our attire was pants, kurta, Vrindavan vest, and a fisherman's hat. And somehow we were selling so many Krishna books and Srimad Bhagavatams. Remember? 1974, Seattle World's Fair. Of course, they all came from Denver, from Seattle, from LA, from San Francisco, and ultimately we got asked to leave the premises. But we distributed there for a long time. So this is the Vaishnav way. We have Vaishnav attire. We have our Vaishnav culture. Someone calls you on the phone or greets you, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory Srila Prabhupada, all glory Sri Guru and Gauranga. That's an ISKCON Vaishnav. Someone calls you and says, Dandavat Pranam. I'm like, who is this? Dandavat Pranam is very nice. But we were taught to say, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So there is Vaishnav etiquette. There's Vaishnav culture. Such a beautiful culture. We grew up in the nastiest of cultures. My parents' culture was nasty. I can't even begin to tell you about Cadets' kosher restaurant. Nasty. But the culture of Krishna consciousness, so nice. Nice cooking, nice rapport. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, nice dress, nice everything. The culture is so beautiful. We should be very serious and sincere to take it up wholly and spread it to others. Because otherwise they have no culture. They have no religion. Kali ekali kale nahi ar koinya dharm, Vaishnava Shastra ekahemar. In this Kali Yuga, there's two things. The Vaishnava principles and the Vaishnava scriptures. And this is the sum and substance of everything. So we take it up and we spread it. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread it far and wide. Devotees came like the river flowing into the sea. Devotees came from Bengal and all over to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and have his association. And ultimately also have the association of Jagannath Swami. Jagannath Swami Ji ki jai. All glory Sri Guru and Gauranga Hari Hari Bol.